Demon Kissed, Part 3, Isaac, Chapter 11. Words spoken harshly. If you love them, claim them as your own and have done with it. But do not come crying to me when you're in over your head with no way out. Love was never meant to be easy. I materialized in the chair near the window as the door quietly clicked shut and shook my head. With some people, you could give them a few instructions and they were more than happy to comply. With others, you could give them a book's worth of instructions and they just refused to do as you wanted out of sheer stubbornness or fear of being hurt. Erin was staring at the closed door with a confused, hurt look on her pretty face, and I wondered what Alistair had said or done to put such a look of sadness in her eyes. "Well, that was quick. What did you say to make him leave so fast?" I said, and she jumped. "Where the hell did you come from?" she asked in a near yell, making me laugh a little. "I'm a demon, love. Try a different question," I said, and chuckled a bit more as her face turned a little red. "You know what I meant, Isaac. How did you get in here?" she asked, and crossed her arms. "Magic," I said glibly, and shrugged when she glared at me, then returned the subject to what I dearly wanted to know. "So, what did you say to him?" Nothing. I didn't say anything. He just left. Said he had things to do," she said. "I'm sure he did. But he did say the other night that he would speak to you about this," I said, gesturing around me at the room. From somewhere in the house, one of the kids screamed and a door slammed from up the hall, followed by running footsteps and a bellowed, "If you kids break anything in this place, I will personally take it out of your hide." I recognized the voice as being Lucian's and shook my head. Erin giggled and leaned back against the headboard with a tired sigh. "He wouldn't look at me, you know," she said after a moment, her tone sad and lost. "Oh? And that bothered you, why?" I asked, and rose from the chair to look out the window. "He's never done that before, Isaac. Sure, he's ignored me a few times when I asked a question he didn't want to answer. But he's never not looked at me when speaking to me before," she said, and I could hear the hurt confusion in her voice. "Did he look at you when he came in?" I asked, and turned to look at her. "Well, yeah, but—" Her voice trailed off, and she looked lost in thought for a moment. "Let me guess. You said something that made him mad, and he wouldn't look at you after that," I said, when she didn't continue, and she looked away, shrugging. "Christ, Erin, what did you say to the man?" I demanded, moving back to the bed. "Nothing, okay? I didn't say a damn thing. Alistair did most of the talking from over there," she said, and pointed to the window. "He answered a few questions, asked several more, and left. And how does that work anyway? A vampire in full sunlight? It makes no sense," she added, and shook her head slowly. "It makes perfect sense for his age. Hell, it makes sense for every vampire in this mansion," I said, and sat next to her feet on the bed. "But how? How can he and the other vampires be in sunlight? You say it has to do with their age. Fine. How old does a vamp have to be before the sun doesn't fry them?" she asked. "From what I understand and have been told, they begin to develop shields of a sort around 50. The shields then become stronger every year the vampire is alive, until they can go out into full daylight and remain there all day if they want," I said. "I suppose that makes some sense. But how old are the people in this place?" she said, and I had to think for a few minutes. Depending on who they were, they could be anywhere from just over 300 to well over 12,000 years old. You'll have to give me a name if you want specifics, but damn near all of them are well into their thousands. There may be a few who are younger than that, but even there, they would still be in their upper hundreds and sunproof, I said, and moved up higher on the bed, then tugged the covers aside to check the bandages on her leg. They'd need changing this evening, and Erin would probably like some sort of bath. I'll have to help her with the bath and change them for her. God knows she won't let Alistair or one of the others do it. I thought with an internal mental sigh, pulling the blankets back into place over her leg, and looked back up at her face. She looked shell-shocked and was staring at me as though she had no clue as to who I was anymore. The look of shocked confusion left her eyes, and they lit with the green fire of her temper as the implications of what I had said sank in. Do you mean to tell me that you know these people?" she demanded, her voice scarily calm and even, as her eyes practically shot sparks at me. I rose from the bed and moved back to the chair by the window without answering her and sat down. I wasn't afraid of getting shot. I knew she didn't have another clip for the Glock. I had only given her 2, after all, when I brought her the gun, and I was betting she had emptied both into either Alonzo Antoli or Lucien Verreau. Both had been in the room 2 hours ago when I left to grab a shower and get something to eat. I had heard the shots from the kitchen a half-hour ago, and I had seen the holes in the wall as soon as I returned, not to mention the rather large puddle of blood by the wall and the trail of drops that led from it to the door. "You said you needed a name if I wanted you to be specific. Damn it, Zach, do you know them? Is that why you've been so calm about this and how you knew where he took me? Alistair only said he sent word that he had brought me here when I asked, not that he had someone bring you here, and you seem to know quite a lot about them," she said in a heated tone. "What do you want to know, Erin? What do you want me to say?" I asked her mildly, and leaned forward with my forearms on my knees. I saw the thoughts racing over her face and waited. Long minutes passed as she thought, and I could tell that whatever she was thinking was making her upset. But I didn't interrupt her train of thought. If she asked me a question, I would answer it. If she told me to get the fuck away from her and never come back, I would do so. Then I'd protect her from a distance, and she would never know I was doing it. "Do I even know you, Isaac? I mean, you've never talked about your past, and I've never asked about it. I never thought it was important enough to ask. But perhaps I should have," she said finally, her voice soft and kind of sad as she gazed at me. "You know me better than most humans," I said, and she shook her head. "No, I don't think I do, not really. I've lived with you for 10 years. And this is the first time that I can remember this ever coming up. I think you know more about me than I know about you," she said, and I could tell that the thought of that bothered her greatly. "If you want answers, Erin, you need to ask a question. If you want me to leave, say so and I will. But I have the feeling that all you really want right now is some more sleep, maybe a bath, and something nice to eat," I said. "What I want, Isaac, is to know who the fuck I've been living with for a damn decade. Can you tell me that? Can you tell me who you are, how old you are, where you came from, and who your people are? Can you tell me any of that? How well do you know Alistair? How well do you know the other vampires in this house?" she asked, the words tumbling over each other in a heated rush, ending in a near yell, and with her fist hitting the wall hard enough that I saw the plaster crack. "That is a lot of questions, Erin, but I'll try to answer them all and in order. I will not tell you my true name, as it could be used to either kill me or make me kill others I care about. I will tell you that I am 12,913 years old. I have known every vampire in this house, and quite a few more in other parts of the country for most of the years that I have been alive, and I consider them to be part of my family. I was born in what is now called Wales, to the demoness called Lust, and a human male named Robert de Grand. I was adopted 300 years later by an amazing woman who was called Lay, and who ran a jack-of-all-trades guild out of a keep she had either taken over or built in southern Scotland. She was a princess and a warrior of unparalleled skill, and she had a heart of gold. I met Alistair and the rest when she brought me home to stay with her over 12,000 years ago, I said, reciting from memory, watching her face as I spoke, and saw the light dawn as I continued. The people of that guild are the people in this mansion, and they, along with the ones who are elsewhere in the country, are my people. I have lived with them all for a very long time, and I know them all quite well. Hell, Lucian was the one who threw that friggin' dumpster at my head 10 days ago, and Alonzo was the one who came to tell me where you were, I said, and paused for a moment to recollect my thoughts. I don't know these names, Isaac. And Alistair told me that the guy that threw the dumpster was new. Wait a second, 10 days ago? I thought it had only been 24 hours since the fight with the walker, not 6 days, she said with wide eyes, and I shrugged. You've spent most of this week and a half unconscious, I said, then asked. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want me to stop and let you rest? Keep going, I guess, Aaron said, making a vague gesture in my direction. New to town, maybe, but not new to being a vampire, I can tell you that, I said in reference to Lucian and the fact that Alistair had answered her question in the most indirect way possible. I have to give Alistair credit. He did answer your question truthfully, but without telling you the full truth, a method I'm sure you are familiar with. Her cheeks turned a bright pink in response, and I grinned. The truth I'm going to tell you today is probably going to piss you off royally, but it's something that I believe you need to know and deal with now, as opposed to later, when you're on your deathbed. Since you were not trying to bash Alistair's head in with the wall when I came in, I'm assuming that he neglected to tell you that until a certain individual is caught and punished, you will have to stay here, I continued, and saw the color drain from her face, leaving it nearly the same shade as the sheet wrapped around her. I know you're not bullshitting me, but just what the fuck did you see this time? She said in a low tone that said that she'd had it with male let's protect the little female bullshit, and wanted more answers than I would normally be required to give her as far as my visions went, and I just knew she was going to hate what I had to say next. Do you want me to show you, or just tell you? I asked, and she closed her eyes. Show me all the visions you've had on this subject over this last week, she said. Why this last week? I asked, curious. You've been acting strange since Saturday night's patrol and my subsequent fist fight with Ramsay Drake over on Wallace, she said dryly, and opened her eyes. Mr. Drake can turn into a 50-foot-long lizard with wings. You were lucky he didn't eat your ass, I said, and moved back to the bed. You never did ask why I decked him in the first place, she commented musingly. I didn't need to. Alistair saw the whole thing and asked me if there wasn't a way of making Ramsay a permanently sexless dragon, I said, and sat next to her at the head of the bed. How did he do that when he's never been to our camp? She asked. Alistair wasn't there physically. He contacted me telepathically, I said, tapping my temple. I guess you must know him pretty well, for him to be able to do that and for you to be so fine with it. How long has he been contacting you that way? She said, and cocked her head. I knew she was stalling, and to be honest, I couldn't really blame her for it. My ability to have visions of the future and share them with others was, quite frankly, hard. On both myself and the person I was sharing the vision with, especially if the vision concerned that person. 10 years, love. 10 long, very interesting years, I said, leaning back against the headboard. Is that how he knew where I was going to be when I met him for the first time? She asked, and I debated how much to tell her on that subject. The truth was that I hadn't had to tell Alistair that Aaron was in trouble that night. At that time, Base had been fairly close to the mansion, and he had taken to following her every time she left, just to make sure she returned home in one piece at dawn. I knew he was out there every night, following her around and keeping her safe, so I hadn't worried about the trouble she might get into out in the city at night. Besides, they had met briefly 3 years before then, and I'd had several favorable visions concerning them both afterward. I knew that they would meet again eventually, and that they would fall for each other hard. What neither I or Alistair had considered at the time was that Erin was a very stubborn female and had her mind set on nearly all vampires being scum. As a result of this oversight on my part, Alistair was deeply in love with a strong-willed woman who acted like she would sooner see him staked than love him back, and I had no idea of how to fix it and make my visions of them a reality. Deciding that discretion was indeed the better part of valor as far as her question went, I drew a deep breath and answered it. No. You two meeting like that was just chance and had nothing to do with me. But you knew it would happen, she said, making a jump in logic that I deeply wished she hadn't. Gods know this small human woman is the best friend I have ever had, and I always find it hard to outright lie to her about anything. But I can't tell her the truth this time. If I told her the truth this time, she would start making connections in her quick little mind, and then we would all be up shit creek without the benefit of a paddle, in a boat made of Swiss cheese, I thought, and steeled my heart against any guilt I would feel later over what I must do now, and lied to her. No, I truly had no idea that you would end up in that situation or that you two would meet that night, I said, and forced sincerity into my voice. A hard thing to do when you had a truly demonic voice like I did, and were, in fact, lying your ass off to prevent the proverbial shit from hitting the proverbial fan. I just hoped that she'd forgive me for lying to her about this when she found out about it. And I knew she would find out about my lie. She was too smart not to make the connections to uncover it. All right, I'll buy that, for now, she said. And the way she said it let me know that I would be thoroughly interrogated later, and with holy water and crosses if necessary. I shuddered slightly at the thought. Good. Are you done stalling now? I said, and looked down at her beside me. Yeah, I'm done. But I had better get some real answers, and soon, my friend, she said seriously. You'll get them, don't worry, I said easily, and put my arm around her shoulders, then asked, Ready? She nodded tightly and shut her eyes, smiling slightly at the action. I called my power and channeled it into the first vision I was, hopefully, going to have this week. I was always an observer in the visions, but I knew from past experience with her and others that the person I had the vision about and then shared the vision with would be placed right in the middle of it and would then be forced to live it. And yeah, that included death visions. Watching her face carefully, I let the vision take us both, but kept an awareness of the here and now so that if she started having trouble with her heart rate or breathing, I could stop the session immediately and get help. The building Aaron was standing in was large, dark, and very creepy. It also had what appeared to be an overabundance of arrogant, too stupid to live, we've had too much to drink shapeshifters, and Aaron was being backed slowly into a corner by a very drunk, very horny, and very big dragon. "Come, give us some sugar, sugar," he said to much drunken laughter from his friends. "None of you are my type. I think you all need to go home and sleep the drunk and stupid off," she said, and fell into a ready fighting stance. I felt her tense beside me and rubbed her arm. "Now, there's no need to be rude, pet. We just want to have us a little fun," he said, and took another step toward her. She shook her head sadly at him, then gave him a sweetly evil smile. "What the hell," she said, shrugging. "I was getting bored tonight anyway. Might as well have some fun. Though I think you won't like my version of fun, as our views on it seem to greatly differ," she added, and drew her right arm back until her hand was even with her shoulder. Aaron made a fist, then she drove her arm forward, turning her body with the movement to add more power to her strike, and buried her fist in his solar plexus. The speed and force of the move gave her enough momentum to deliver a hard roundhouse kick to his head as he doubled over slightly from the punch, putting the big man on his knees and nowhere near unconscious. The hit seemed to amuse him, though, for he laughed as he regained his feet in an almost liquid movement a moment later. Aaron had moved away from the corner while he was down and stood battle-ready a few feet to his left. "Not a bad strike, for a human," he said, and turned to face her. "Thank you," she said, and hit him again with another kick, this time to his midsection. The dragon blocked it by grabbing her leg and swinging her even more off balance. He slapped her ass as she fell forward away from him, and the sound of rage she let out was frightening to hear. The dragon just laughed and reached down to grab the back of her belt, but he never got a finger on it. She got her hands under her and tucked her head down between her arms, leaned her shoulders flat on the ground, hooked her legs under his arms, and used her hips and back to lift him off of his feet and over her prone face-down body and face first onto the floor. Using the momentum of the backward throw, she pushed herself into a handstand and followed him over, landing with her butt on his shoulders and with her feet planted flat on the floor to either side of him. Aaron stood quickly and danced a little ways away, laughing when he tried to grab her leg. "What's the matter, big boy? Can't catch me? Can't stay on your feet?" she said, shaking her head. The big man rolled to his feet, wiped blood from his chin, and grinned. Then he moved forward with super speed and hit her twice in the face with his fist before picking her up and throwing her across the room. I pulled back from the vision a bit and moved my hand from her shoulder to her neck. Her pulse was racing fast, and I could feel her breath falling quick and hard on the side of my chest where her head was resting against me. It was time to switch to another vision, before Aaron's body ran into more trouble from the adrenaline than I was willing to risk at the moment. If she was in perfect health, I wouldn't worry about the little bit of extra stress that this was putting on her. But she wasn't in perfect health, and there were still 2 visions to get through before I could let her rest again. Praying that she would live through the stress of the next 2, I slowly blurred the vision and brought the next one to the front of my mind. As the vision turned dark, her hand gripped my thigh through my jeans hard, and I winced a little at the slight pain of her nails caused as they dug into my leg. Weak as Aaron was from over 2 weeks' worth of still healing injuries from previous fights and the blood loss she had suffered 6 days ago, she still had one hell of a strong grip. I took a deep breath and led her as gently as I could into the next vision. I was standing in front of her, and her green eyes were lit with the fire of her temper as she repeatedly rammed her finger into my chest. "Just what the fuck were you thinking, leaving me back there alone with Merrick?" she demanded, and switched from poking to banging her fist on my chest. "I was thinking that you might love have wanted a moment alone with him," I said, catching her hand and holding it away from me. She took a swing at my head with the other, and I caught it too. She tugged back on her arms and glared at me when she couldn't get free of my grip. "What the hell gave you that asinine idea?" she growled, and leaned back away from me with all her weight pulling on her arms. I let go of her hands, and she went sprawling on her ass in the dirt. Erin screeched in rage, scrambled back to her feet, and ran at me with her teeth bared. "Erin, this is ridiculous," I said, grabbing her shoulders and spinning her around so that her back was to my chest. The speed I used, coupled with the momentum of her charge, caused her to slam into my chest, and she was momentarily off guard, so I pinned her arms to her sides. "Calm down. I thought you might want to talk with the man because you thought he was dead. Hell, Erin, I figured you were in love with him," I said, easily holding her weight when she pulled her legs up to her chest in an effort to make me let her go. "In love with him? What the fuck have you been smoking?" she asked, going still as a snake. "Nothing. I simply watched how you interacted with him and how you interacted with Alistair, and came to the conclusion that you had to be in love with Merrick to be so fucking clueless as to exactly how much that vampire cares about your dumb ass," I said, dropping her and stepping to the shadows cast by the mansion. I felt her hand clench harder on my thigh and drew a hissing breath through my teeth. Damn, she'd be drawing blood through my jeans before the end of this vision, and this wasn't even the vision I was worried about. This was going to suck. "Damn it, Isaac! That is the second time you've put me on my ass, and it sucks!" she yelled. "You suck, for that matter," she continued yelling as she stood up and dusted herself off. "You done?" I asked, and she looked around until she spotted me. "No, I'm not done," she snapped and took a step toward me. Don't come near me again until you calm the fuck down and are ready to have an adult conversation with me," I said, and she stopped. "You may not be done, but I am. I am done with your childish bullshit. I am done with watching you slowly destroy a good man I have known for centuries and think of as a father. I am done with trying to keep your goddamn ass here so that I know you're safe. And I am just fucking done, Erin," I finished, and she looked at me like she had been slapped. Her green eyes clouded with hurt and confusion as she stared at me, and that look hurt me deeply. "I don't understand. Zach, why are you—" she started to say, and I raised a hand, stopping her. "I know you don't, love, and that is why I am done. I cannot understand how you can be so antagonistic toward Alistair when he has done nothing to warrant it, and be so friggin' nice to a man who should be shot in the head twice a day for the hell he's put you through," I said. "Isaac, She tried again, and I slashed a hand through the air between us. "No, just no, Erin," I said, and turned my back on her. The vision faded, and I felt Erin shudder against my side as I pulled her back to the here and now before the next vision could take hold. "You all right?" I asked when she just leaned on me after I had finished bringing her out of it. "Yeah," she croaked, then coughed violently before continuing. "How the fuck do you stand those damn things? My head feels like someone beat it with a bat." "I just do. I'm going to let you get some more rest, love. You need it, and I do too after 2 vision tours," I said, and tried to slide off the bed, but Erin grabbed my arm, keeping me with her, and I looked over my shoulder at her. She looked pale and tired and a little scared. "Hey, can you stay just for a little while, please?" she asked quietly. "Why? I'm not saying no. I would just like to hear the reason, especially after that last one." I said, and she bit her lower lip nervously for a moment. That last one is the reason, she said, and shook her head when I tried to speak. I know your reasons better than you think I do, and I'm glad you showed me it. You'll have to explain some of it to me, but for the most part I think I understand what you were saying in it, and only a best friend who cares about me greatly would have the gall or right to call me on my bullshit like that, and I thank you for it. She smiled a little, and I just stared at her dumbly for a moment, then chuckled. Every time I think I've got your probable reactions pegged, you do or say something that completely destroys my pigeonholes and blows my mind, I said, shaking my head. So you'll stay? She asked, and her smile turned into a grin when I nodded. You're a strange human, I said as Erin snuggled down in the bed and patted the other pillow beside hers. And you're a strange demon, she said, and shrugged, then yawned and rubbed her eyes. Sleep, I commanded, and pulled the covers over her head, then laid down on top of them next to her. Hey! She barked and jerked the blankets off of her face.